Good morning, and welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Lynchburg. Here we gather in a spirit of freedom and friendship. Whoever you are, whatever your beliefs, whatever your age, and whomever you love, you are welcome here. As we work together for justice, compassion, and peace, we also acknowledge with humility that our buildings sit on land originally part of the Monacan Nation. My name is Kim Sinha. I've been a member of First Unitarian for close to 20 years. If you are with us for the first time, we are glad you chose to be here this morning to participate in the service for this church community we love. We would be happy to tell you more about our community during virtual social time following the service. If you would like to receive our monthly newsletter and Friday email updates, please fill out the virtual visitor card found on our website, uulynchburg.org, under Sunday services held via Zoom. You may also wish to join our Facebook group. Please note that the order of service is in the chat to the right of your screen. Okay. Now for announcements. The only announcement I have is that our annual church auction, which is being held virtually again this year, is ongoing, but today I believe is the last day. And I want to stress to you that there are a lot of really cool things up for auction, some social events, some great artwork, some jewelry. And if, like us, you already have more things in your home than you can deal with, and you want to just make a donation, Finnish Southworth has generously offered to match all cash donations to the auction. So if you really want to have an impact, make a big cash donation. Not too big, but so check that out. I think you can find the link to the virtual auction on our church website. Again, that is uulynchburg.org. If not, maybe David, you could find it and put it in the chat for us. Are there any other announcements? Okay. As we enter our time of worship, we light the flame of our chalice, sharing these words. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, O Spirit of life. And now for these opening words, Sanctuary of the Soul by David R. Chapman. To those of you who are visitors here for the first time, thank you again for being with us. If you are lonely, here you will find warm companionship. Here in this sanctuary of hope, you can find a new seat at the table of life and feast yourself on love and fellowship. And you will not hunger for the touch of a human hand or an embrace of your searching spirit. If you are afraid, or if you have been abused, if you ache with fatigue, here you will find rest. You will be comforted, your spiritual wounds will be dressed, and your courage will be returned to you. You will be led beside the still waters, and your soul will be restored. If you seek to understand, here you will be encouraged in your search. Wonderful pathways will be lit unto you, and wherever your journeys take you, you will know that you can always come home again to this place, made sacred by our love for you. This is a sanctuary of the soul. There are no boundaries in this cathedral of hope. The collective wisdom of all humankind and our painful but glorious history are open to you here. Your heart and your mind need never struggle with one another in a Unitarian Universalist congregation. We have no fear of science. We have no fear of knowledge here. If someday you decide to join us, you may feel what I have felt in the words of author Dorothy Lee Sayers. All my life I have been wandering in the dark, but now I have found your hearts and am satisfied. And what do all the great words come into the end but that? I love you. I am at rest with you. I have come home. Now let us sing together hymn number 350, The Ceaseless Flow of Endless Time. And now we have a time for all ages. No? Okay. Never mind. The ministries of our church are supported by the love, talents, and efforts of our many volunteers and staff, as well as the monetary support of our members and you to use the donate button found at the UU Lynchburg org at the bottom of the menu to the left for donations to First Unitarian. Just click on the button to give generously through any credit card or directly from your bank. You can also send a check to First Unitarian Church, 818 Court Street, Lynchburg, Virginia, 24504. We receive these monetary gifts along with the gifts of your time, work, and creativity, which also sustain our church, as together we give generously to support our congregation. And let us also commit ourselves to a unity of spirit to make manifest a more just, peaceful, and loving world. It is our tradition. Let us enter into a spirit of meditation. Much of our human struggle is with what we do not know or understand. It is often difficult not to want answers, or even more difficult not to think we have them already. May we experience what we do not know, not as an individual failure, but as an invitation to community. May we seek not the true answers so much as the true questions, knowing that true questions make our lives meaningful, even if sometimes restless journeys. May we be grateful for the restless voices in our communities. Let us take a few moments of silence to listen for the restless voices within ourselves. May we be good company to one another in our questions and our journey. So may it be. Our reading this morning is from the Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7. There is in her a spirit that is intelligent, holy, unique, manifold, subtle, mobile, clear, unpolluted, distinct, invulnerable, loving the good, keen, irresistible, beneficent, humane, steadfast, sure, free from anxiety, all powerful, overseeing all Although she is but one, she can do all things. And while remaining in herself, she renews all things. She is more beautiful than the sun and excels every constellation of the stars. Compared with the light, she is found to be superior, for it is succeeded by the night, but against wisdom, evil does not prevail. And now I hand it over to Reverend Laura Horton-Ludwig, I believe of Williamsburg congregation. I'm sorry, I don't have a biography for you. So let's all sit and listen to what the message is today.
One second. It'll be just a second.
Hello, Unitarian Universalist neighbors. I'm Reverend Laura Horton-Ludwig, and I serve as minister of the Williamsburg UUs in Williamsburg, Virginia. It's good to be with you today, even separated as we are by time and space, and I'm very grateful for the connections that bind our congregations together. There is a beautiful philosophical tradition dating back to the Greek-influenced Jewish communities of the 1st century BCE, a tradition of imagining the human quality of wisdom as a divine being, usually female, sometimes called the divine Sophia, from the Greek word for wisdom. A bit later, some of the early Christian groups associated this divine wisdom with the Holy Spirit. The reading you heard today from the Wisdom of Solomon comes out of the Jewish strand of this tradition. It's probably the most famous example of writings on wisdom as the divine feminine, certainly one of the most beautiful. Wisdom is more beautiful than the sun, and against wisdom, evil does not prevail. Words that we need now in our own time, when so often it seems that wisdom is not prevailing in our world. There is so much fear and worry in the air about where we are all headed, and we could use some help. So today, I want to offer you a story from this ancient tradition honoring wisdom. A story that I hope can offer us some much needed perspective and encouragement as we try to think and act wisely here and now. This is a true story. Once, there was a man named Boethius. He was born in Rome somewhere around the year 477, just after the fall of the Roman Empire in the West. Boethius came from a family of public servants. Early in his own distinguished career, he served as a legislator. Later, he became chief of staff for the King of Italy, who reported directly to the emperor in Constantinople. But around the year 524, Boethius was denounced by a rival and arrested on trumped-up charges. His boss, the king, had become quite paranoid by this time, and the king turned on Boethius and got the Senate to sentence him to exile and execution. This is all in the historical record, and it might have been just a sad story, albeit one with some pretty odd resonances with today. But Boethius was also a scholar and a philosopher. And while he was in exile, awaiting execution, he wrote a book to try to make sense of what had happened to him. He called his book The Consolation of Philosophy. It was pretty much the when bad things happen to good people of his generation. And it became one of the most beloved books in the Europe of the Middle Ages. It still has a lot to say to us today. Boethius begins his book by remembering how sad he was when he found himself in exile. He describes himself, he says, "My hair untimely white upon my head, and I a worn out bone bag hung with flesh." He is in a place of despair. But then he writes, "I became aware of a woman standing over me. She was of awe-inspiring appearance, her eyes burning and keen." And soon we learn that this figure is Lady Philosophy, an incarnation of the wisdom that Boethius has studied and devoted himself to all his life. Lady Philosophy is here to console him, to heal him, to help him make peace with this extremely painful turn that his life has taken. And the heart of her teaching, offered over the next 100-some pages, is this: remember that things in this life are always changing. The things we enjoy and take pleasure in may not last. But if you set your mind on the good and try to live according to the teachings of wisdom, those things will always last. They will never betray you. In Boethius's day, many people thought that life was like a wheel turned by the goddess of fortune. The wheel of fortune in those days was a deadly serious metaphor for how quickly life can change. Sometimes you're riding high at the top of the wheel. The next minute, you've sunk all the way to the bottom. Toward the beginning of the book, Lady Philosophy tells Boethius about the goddess Fortune. She asks Boethius why he's so sad about his own changing fortunes. And she tells him, she says, "You are wrong if you think fortune has changed toward you. Change is her normal behavior, her true nature. In the very act of changing, she has preserved her own particular kind of constancy toward you. You have discovered the changing faces of the random goddess. To others, she still veils herself, but to you, she has revealed herself to the full." I sit with these words, and I think there is something very important for us here. In the last few months, we have experienced the instability of human life in a visceral and frightening way. So much that we might take for granted is fragile and can be lost. The words of Lady Philosophy are echoing in my ears. You have discovered the changing faces of the random goddess. To others, she still veils herself, but to you, she has revealed herself. And so, with Boethius, I find that I need the counsel of the Lady Philosophy. I am sitting at her feet because I need to be reminded of where my grounding truly is. I need to know what will hold firm when the things of the world begin to spin and tilt alarmingly. So here is what she tells us. She says, first, we know that people get all tangled up in chasing after external things that we think will bring us happiness, but they don't. Good looks, power, money. We chase after all sorts of external things in life, and sometimes we get them for a while. But the happiness we get from these things, Lady Philosophy calls it false happiness because it's dependent on things that are unstable and constantly changing. So she tells us, stop Stop chasing all the external stuff. She says to find true and perfect happiness, we need to let go of all that and look inside to find that which is infinite and lasting. And when we look inside, what do we find? This is where I want to tread carefully, because where she goes next may lose some of us, but I'm going to try to hold us together. In Boethius's world, there was a clear consensus that the world had been created by a force of some kind, which Boethius's world called God. Lady Philosophy tells us, keep your mind fixed on God, the creator of all things, the center of all things, and so find stillness, find peace. And I know that not all of us may be able to follow her here. We have a big tent in our congregations when it comes to our understanding of God or not. But I want to offer that what Boethius means by God is very simple and really doesn't depend on belief as we usually think of it. Boethius, instructed by his Lady Philosophy, says, we human beings, we are here in time. But beyond time, there is something which is infinite. We human beings are caught on fortune's wheel, the ever-changing dance of life. But beyond that wheel, there is a still point in the middle, which also lives inside each one of us and every living thing. That still point is what Boethius calls God, what Buddhists call nirvana, or the unconditioned. That still point is what any of us can experience without needing to label it at all, when our mind becomes still and we feel at peace. This is the end and goal of wisdom's teaching. We can find that still point within ourselves, no matter which way fortune's wheel turns us. And in that still point is the happiness that will last, the ground that will hold us steady no matter what. Lady Philosophy says, you cannot impose anything on a free mind, and you cannot move from its state of inner tranquility, a mind at peace with itself and firmly founded on reason. Friends, in these turbulent days, may these ancient wisdom teachings bless us with true and unshakable peace. When we grow fearful for what is to come, remember the still point within you that never leaves you, and may wisdom guide you always. For against wisdom, evil will not prevail. So may it be, and amen.
Thank you. And now will you sing together hymn number 352, Find a Stillness.
Let me flower, help me flower, watch me flower, carry me in the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony.
As our service draws to a close, we extinguish the flame of our chalice as we say these words together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Go forth in simplicity. Find and walk the path that leads to compassion and wisdom, that leads to happiness, peace, and ease. Welcome the stranger and open your heart to a world in need of healing. Be courageous before the forces of hate. Hold and embody a vision of the common good that serves the needs of all people. How blessed are we to have such beautiful music every week? We really are.